Look, Proxmox is a great virtualization platform, but now that I've been using it as my daily driver, there are things that I think we should talk about, things I think that need to be fixed. Improvements to make Proxmox as great to use as it is at running virtual workloads. So let's talk about it. Now that Proxmox has become my HomeLab's virtualization platform of choice, replacing my once loved VMware vCenter, I've had a lot of time working with it, and there are things I just don't like about the UI. So instead of just making a rant video where I complain about them, which I'll still be doing, by the way, I figured I'd also mock up the way that I think it should be, my vision for a better Proxmox, if you will. I know you're gonna have tons of opinions about what I'm gonna show, so definitely get down in the comments and tell me how terribly wrong I am. Before we get started with the GUI though, I do want to address the elephant in the room. And that's the lack of a built-in DRS equivalent in Proxmox. DRS, or Distributed Resource Scheduling, is VMware talk for automated balancing of workloads across nodes in a cluster. Proxmox did introduce CRS, or Cluster Resource Scheduler, for version 7.3, but we really haven't heard about it since. So if Proxmox Server Solutions happens to be listening, please fix this first. Yes, there are people who've created workarounds with scripts, but that's not an enterprise solution. So yeah, Proxmox Server Solutions, get on that. Before we get started here, I want to be clear, I'm really enjoying Proxmox VE, where once I was a bit skeptical about its competitive abilities when pit against enterprise solutions like VMware, I'm now thoroughly satisfied that it is a stable and reliable solution. Where I think Proxmox and really a lot of open source virtualization platforms are behind on is with the user interface and the user experience. You know, the thing that we admins have to interact with on a daily basis. So to be clear, I'm not shitting on your baby, I'm offering a vision for a better Proxmox experience. The first thing that needs to change is the fact that we can't use spaces pretty much anywhere for specifying names for things, but specifically, it bugs me the most when it comes to VM names. I don't think I'm asking for too much to be allowed to use spaces or even special characters. I mean, it's 2024. Gimme spaces. Guys, seriously, I don't know why this issue exists in Proxmox. And before you say something like, well, Linux, let me remind you that what you see in the UI doesn't have to be what is functioning on the back end. So yeah, spaces, underscores, special characters, those need to be available for names. Now let's talk about the GUI itself. This is my Proxmox host currently. We're in the folder view, which is my preferred default view for Proxmox. Left pane is the data center, nodes, VM, SDN, storage, and containers navigation if I had any. Right pane shows the information that pertains to the selection in the navigation section on the left. The colored bubbles to the right of the VMs are the tags assigned to the VMs. Tags are super useful, especially if you're using them for programmatic functionality. That being said, however, I don't think they provide any purpose showing up in the left pane. So first thing I recommend we do here is remove them. There we go, that's so much better. Less busy, more space, and a cleaner look. But there's more cleanup that we can do here. I also don't like the fact that we have the VMIDs showing in the VM names. Make no mistake, I understand the value of having visibility of the VMID. Again, especially if you're doing programmatic things via the Proxmox API. But they don't need to be visible in the VM list. So the next cleanup here is to strike them from that view. Boom, just like that, all gone. We have more space, and we only see the information at a glance for the VMs we actually need. Pretty pedestrian so far, right? Now let's get more creative here. One of the biggest things I miss from vCenter is visual organization for virtual machines and containers. This was done by using folders and subfolders to better organize your VMs in a very visual way. Let me show you what that would look like in Proxmox. Alright, all of that space I just freed up by pulling out the tags and the VMID labels gives us the opportunity to introduce some organization into the mix. So let's use some of that space for folders for organization. Here's a visualization of what I was just talking about. Imagine a Proxmox where you can create folders and subfolders to organize your VMs and containers logically, however you'd want. This is exactly how I and most admins do it in vCenter. I had test folders, production folders, and internal and external subfolders, and all of the VMs were placed into their respective folders. I think it's fantastic, and I really want this feature in the UI. Just to poke the bear a little here, the view is called Folder View, but you can't actually manipulate or create any folders in the view. So why not let us create folders in the damn view? Now, let's talk about managing virtual machines. As it stands, Proxmox doesn't allow you to select more than one virtual machine at a time to manipulate it. So let's look at the changes I think need to happen. You're looking at the standard virtual machine summary list when you've selected virtual machines in the left pane. I don't know why Proxmox needs to show you what type the VMs are, since there's only one type of VM in Proxmox. So let's drop the type column altogether and just make that a state column. And again, let's get rid of the VMIDs from the names. Oh, that is better already, but I still want to address the need to manage multiple VMs at a single time. So let's add the ability to select multiple VMs at once by adding selection boxes to the list as well. That's better. This feature add would allow admins to select multiple machines and then run batch functions against them, like starting, stopping, restarting, and even deleting multiple VMs instead of having to click on each one individually to manipulate them. Another thing missing is something that many admins use all the time, and that is an export function. Imagine running a cluster with, say, 18 hosts, running 300 or 400 VMs and containers on it, and needing to get a dump of the information about those VMs, like their OS, resources assigned, and so on. I can't tell you how many times management has asked for a current CSV of running workloads in my day job, and this is something that should be built into the basic UI of Proxmox, but it's not. Now let's turn our sights on the submenus and the summary page. Here we are back on the summary page with my modern changes to the folder view on the left. I have really never liked the submenu approach that Proxmox uses for all the settings within a specific section. So let me show you what I think it could be. First things first, let's get rid of the always visible submenu. I think we should only see what we need to see when we need to see it and not crowd up the screen. Now, of course, we have this ugly space there and no way to configure our Proxmox host, so let's shift over the summary cards to take advantage of the free space. It's already looking better, I think, don't you? But Rich, how are you going to manage the configurations of your host if you've removed them? Aha! Let me show you. We're going to move it to the top of the right pane where they're out of the way until they're needed. I gotta tell you, this feels so much better to me. But wait, there's more. To make getting to the configuration section and subsection you need, I recommend we nest them. Like this. Imagine running your mouse cursor over the system section and being able to access the sub-configuration menus as needed. You still get to everything you need to, but you've cleaned up that space for even more important information. Tell me you're not liking this, people. Alright, one final change to the UI to bring my vision to a close, and that's to leverage all of that extra space that we freed up and provide more useful information at a glance. Let's check it out. Welcome to my new summary page and the tiles along with it. All of the free space we've created by changing the layout buys us a lot more flexibility in what we can display and use in the UI. This summary page takes advantage of the additional space to display all 4 resource utilization graphs without having the need to scroll. I've also collapsed the host details tile to make it a more reasonable size. I've added a system health status tile because, and I can't believe this, Proxmox doesn't already have such a tile to show macro health info at a glance. I've created a dedicated tags tile to contain the tags for the VMs and containers running on the host. And lastly, I added a dedicated notes tile on the summary page so admins can put their notes in a place where they'll actually see them and be useful. Many of you astute viewers probably noticed that the relocated configuration submenu lacks some options that were there before, and you're right. As you just saw, I removed the notes section and made it a tile on the summary page, and I completely dropped the shell option because it's also at the top of the UI already. I want to do one last thing here before we call this good. I want to do a comparison between the current UI and my vision for a better Proxmox UI. Just swapping back and forth between these to see how these minor changes make a big difference in the user experience. And if after that you think I'm entirely out of my mind still, then you can flame me to death in the comments below. Fair enough? Cool. Alright, here we go, starting with the existing UI. And now, my vision. One more time, current Proxmox UI. And finally, a vision for a better UI. And that, friends, will do it for this video. If you liked it, throw us a sub and a like, and if you have a beef with anything I've said here, let me know in the comments below. Special thank you to YouTube members. You guys help keep the lights on, and we thank you for it. If you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member or buying some of our swag. It'll help us keep making these videos. And now that you've finished watching this video, how about checking out this playlist over here of other great self-hosting and HomeLab videos we've done in the past. If you're looking for your next great HomeLab idea, we can help.